Hey guys, welcome back.
Hey guys, brand new podcast.
Hey, wait a minute. It's my podcast.
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
Enjoy. So, you had breast cancer.
Yes.
You did.
I did at 42.
That's really
young. It's young, yes. I was part of the young women's breast cancer study because of it, and which is ironic because, I'd had a baby when I started having symptoms, she was 3 months old, but I didn't know that's what it was. But she just turned 6 months old when I was diagnosed. So
oh my gosh.
I was considered a geriatric pregnancy, but I was considered young for breast cancer.
Right.
So that was kind of crazy.
That is crazy, but she was your third.
Yes.
So you had, how old were your other two?
Ava was she 8, I think, when I was diagnosed, and Ashley would have been 5.
8 and 5.
8 and 5, and then a newborn, basically.
Halston's saying, pull the mic closer to you.
Closer to
Just
me?
a little.
Okay.
I like to point it down like this. He doesn't like when I do this, but then it gets out of my way and I don't see it.
Well, I know I have a quiet voice. I know Ava's mad at me because I think she inherited my quiet voice. She's
Oh,
like,
yeah?
Your voice is so quiet. I'm like, sorry.
I think sometimes my kids wish I had a quiet voice. I have such a big voice, and so does Bert. Our house is very loud. We have one child, I think, that would much rather have a quiet house.
Oh, that's funny.
So 8 and 5 and 6 months.
Yeah.
And what type of cancer was it?
It was stage 2 invasive breast cancer.
Okay. So that's aggressive.
So that's the kind that had spread beyond. I actually had non-invasive and invasive. I had 2 types of cancer.
Oh my goodness.
They found out when they did my mastectomy that my mass was actually 11.5 centimeters. So that's 4 inches. That's huge.
Yes, I was going to say really big.
Yeah. So 2 centimeters of it was the invasive, and then it was surrounded by the non-invasive, which was the rest of it. So, so being pregnant actually in one way probably increased the size, but in another way, we caught it, I think, earlier than we may have because of being pregnant. So, we called Annabelle our bonus baby, but then when everything started happening, we were like, oh, she might have been a blessing baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she definitely, having her really pulled me through, I think, the whole thing, because I couldn't just, even when I had just done chemo, I couldn't just sit on the couch and feel sick. I had to get up and go get her because she started crawling not too long after. And,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody about talking to you today, and they said the same thing. They said, I bet having the baby made the process not better, but you can't focus on yourself.
Focus on it, exactly.
Right. You have to just keep moving forward. I mean, that's the beauty sometimes of motherhood, is that you can't focus on some of the other things that may be hard going on in life. That's crazy.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
It was the biggest shock of my life. And I know a lot of people say that when they find out that they have cancer, but I had 10 years before, I'd had a big fluid filled cyst in the same side, and they drained 2 big syringes full of fluid. So I was just I have another fluid filled cyst. I'll just go get an ultrasound and have it drained. And when I went for the mammogram, I was talking to, the technician just about Stella and Dot jewelry. And I was, just chatting away. And she's like, okay, I'm going to go show these pictures to the doctor. I'll be right back. And she came in and she's like, oh, she wants me to do some magnification. And I thought, oh, it's probably because I'm nursing. And then we went into the ultrasound and she did the same thing. She's like, okay, I'm going to show these pictures to the doctor. I'll be right back. Well, she didn't come back. The doctor came back.
Oh.
Yeah. So the radiologist was doing the ultrasound, and then she started ultrasounding my armpit. And it's literally, I felt like the room got darker.
Wow.
Yeah. And she's like, do you have people that can take care of you? I want to do a biopsy in 2 days. Don't be late. I'm going to do it first thing in the morning. And I was just like, what is happening?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you discover it?
I could
you
feel it.
You could.
Yeah, I could feel it. It was really big. And I remember being at a party and showing someone oh my, I have this huge fluid filled cyst, feel it, it's huge, and who knew that was cancer right there? Because most people, they feel either they don't feel anything or they feel a tiny little something, but mine was it was one of those things that I kind of flashed back to when I had the fluid filled cyst, and the nurse was like, oh, I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. Cancer doesn't just show up.
Well, you made a liar out of her. It just showed up, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So you hadn't noticed it growing, or it just kind of one day?
And my OB, had felt around because I missed a mammogram because I was pregnant. Mm-hmm. And I don't know looking back, I don't know, maybe they do them if you're nursing but they don't if you're pregnant, but
right.
So I missed one literally. And this 11.5 centimeter mass showed up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe it was meant to be a teratoma tumor. You know what that is? Mm-mm. It's your twin that's trapped in your body, and it has hair and teeth in it, and it's disgusting. No, but that's crazy. Mm-hmm. It's now what I read. I went to breastcancer.org and read, because I don't have knock on wood. Mm-hmm. I have family. I have lost family members to ovarian cancer.
And that's a hormone-based cancer.
Right.
Also.
But I didn't know much about breast cancer because I don't have any really close friends or relatives that have ever had it. So I did a little bit of reading on it, and that sounds really big, but I lost my train of thought. I brought that up for a specific reason. But, it said that only, let me see, I have it right here. 5 to 10% of breast cancer is genetically inherited.
Oh, yeah.
The rest of it is from aging.
Oh, yeah. Hormones. And yeah, exactly. It's really funny because I describe it to people like I feel like it's the lottery that nobody wants to win.
Right.
Because it does seem really random as far as
right.
At the time, I had only known a little bit about my biological family because I'm adopted. And so...
Wait, you're adopted?
I am adopted.
When did you know you were adopted?
I've always known that I was adopted.
That's good.
I was adopted. I was actually brought to my mom and dad's foster home when I was 18 months old.
Oh, my goodness.
And my mom and dad adopted me then. So I feel like that feels like my first memory, actually, because it was Halloween and the social worker brought me to them, and I went right to my mom and put my head down and hugged her, and that was it.
And it was done.
That was it. And I handed out candy to the kids. So Halloween is like an anniversary for us.
That's got to be a powerful day, right? Mm-hmm. For you. Mm-hmm. Wow. So why were you in foster care?
My biological mom was really young, and she just couldn't take care of me.
Couldn't do it.
Yeah. Initially, my mom was supposed to teach her how to take care of me, but it just became kind of apparent. And I've met her and I've talked to her, and she's very sweet. Right. She's just, I think kind of flighty, and she just can take care of herself. And right. That kind of thing. So, I think it worked out. I think it was meant to be.
It sounds like it was divine.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
If you went right to that mom and were like, okay, I'm home. Let's hand out some candy. I'm good.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
And I remember the story my mom said the social worker, when they wanted to adopt me, took me for like a ride in the car, because I like to go for a ride in the car. And I'm sure I didn't have a car seat, but in the 70s.
Right.
But she's like, what do you think about Carol being your mommy? And I looked at her like really confused, and I was like, she is my mommy.
Oh, how funny.
So it was just like right from the start.
That's amazing. That really is a pair that were meant to be. Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah. But when I was diagnosed, I had met a biological half-brother when I was 18, and his sister had met like one of my biological aunts and had her phone number. So I was able to actually talk to a biological aunt, and there was no breast cancer in the family. In fact, no real cancer in the family. So as far as speaking to the genetics of it, that's mine wasn't genetic. But then, and this might be a whole nother conversation for us another day, but I last week was matched on Ancestry DNA with a biological brother.
Like a full brother?
From a half brother from my dad's side, which that's a big story. Who, like my biological dad's side of the family, I never knew anything about. But it turns out that after talking to him, and I actually have 3 biological half-brothers, my biological father did pass away from cancer, and my biological grandmother passed away from cancer. So,
okay.
Not like hormone-based cancers, lung cancer, and pancreatic cancer, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So
those are very different types, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And they're terrible. Mm-hmm. They're really bad. Yeah. You'd probably much prefer the breast cancer.
Yeah, because, that was the thing is like people ask me, how long did I have cancer? And I said, well, I was diagnosed on like August 4th or something. I saw my doctors on the 11th. And then by September 9th, I was having the bilateral mastectomy. And I walked into the hospital and with cancer, and I walked out of the hospital without cancer.
Right.
So, I had a lot of treatment after that.
Sure.
But initially, they were really quick to get it out. And I'm sure it was because my doctor said they were really scared for me because of the size of it.
And because it was the invasive
Right.
as well.
Yeah.
Because what I read on breastcancer.org is that's a scary,
That's the kind that can spread. Yeah.
really quickly.
So I actually feel like, you were talking about divine things. I feel like it was a miracle it hadn't spread.
It sounds like, tell me if I'm wrong, if I understand this wrong, the invasive was enveloped in the non-invasive.
Yeah.
So something was protecting it.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It was like a styrofoam
I know, it gave me goosebumps.
cover.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's amazing.
Yeah. I think all the doctors were completely shocked because, they expected it to have spread to lymph nodes. But they biopsied a bunch of lymph nodes and didn't find any cancer in them.
And for anybody who doesn't know, a lymph node is it's like a super highway to every other organ, every other bone, everything, right? Your lymph nodes will just super highway it out everywhere.
Exactly. It's like your body's filtering kind of system too, so it catches everything.
Right. Oh, you're so lucky.
Yep.
So, double mastectomy?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
How was that?
Well, I probably could have done just one side because the cancer was only in one side, but I had to stop nursing right away. Mm-hmm. In fact, when I went to see my doctors initially, the reconstructive surgeon, I remember sitting there and him just looking at things, and I was still kind of in shock. I'd seen 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'd seen all these doctors, and he just was looking at me like I didn't even feel like a person. He just was looking back and forth. And when I said something about nursing, he's like, "You're nursing? I can't believe you're nursing. Why are you still nursing?" And I'm like, "I just found out about this a couple days ago and I have a baby."
Yeah, right.
So I stopped nursing pretty quickly, but then I remember feeling around on the other side, and for a split second I thought maybe I felt something.
Oh.
And that was all I needed to know, just do both.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to worry about this. It's so big, just do both. And so the thing of it is that, so that was an easy decision to do both. But then during surgery, when they realized how big it really was, they actually had to call Scott on the phone, and he was in a place where he didn't get good reception, and they were saying that they couldn't do the reconstruction because the mass was too big. And Scott, and what do we do? Do you want us to just leave it and then do the reconstruction down the road? And so Scott, when he got the message, he thought that meant they couldn't do the reconstruction at all. And
my gosh.
He was afraid and everything.
Yeah.
So they actually only reconstructed one side, the right side, and the other side I was flat for 6 months. I had to wait because I had to do another surgery after that, called a lat flap surgery, where they take skin and muscle from your back and they move it around to the front to make a patch.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So that was the way they were able to do the reconstruction. So I woke up, kind of surprised that I only had one side done. But luckily, by the time Annabelle was old enough to start looking down and pulling the little pillow out, I was able to do the other side. So I ended up with, including my gallbladder out, 5 surgeries in 1 year.
Why was your gallbladder out?
It just decided to give me some grief during chemo.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah.
And it had to come out.
Yep.
And that's not an easy surgery, is it?
No, it's really funny too, because a lot of hospitals, they send you home the same day. And to me, that's just crazy. I ended up back in the emergency room that night and in the hospital for 3 days. Yeah.
What does your gallbladder do? What's its purpose?
I think it's another filter of some kind. Yeah.
Well, it's a bladder, so clearly it holds some kind of liquid. I have no idea.
It's what is it?
Anatomy.
Is it something to do with, it's filtering it with your liver and that kind of stuff. But it was full of stones, I guess.
From the chemo?
Probably, partly.
Oh my goodness. So you had 5. So you had the
mastectomy, the gallbladder,
the
lat flap. Then I had the exchange surgery where they take the expanders, because they put the expanders in. So the one side was an expander, and then a lat flap, they put the other expander. And then there's the surgery to take the expanders out and put in the implants. So after 9 days after I had the implants put in, I developed a hematoma that broke loose. And literally, like it was like Dolly Parton on the left side.
Oh my gosh.
Just in the matter of from walking downstairs to upstairs, I noticed it like get swelling. And I was like, what is happening? So I called the surgeon on call, and they're like, oh yeah, come in. And that was really crazy because UCLA emergency room, they were fantastic, but the only room they had with privacy was the psych room.
Oh my God.
So here he's like walking me back, and he's like, I'm sorry, this is the only room we have with some privacy. Cause tests, they had to check everything. And I'm walking into this like metal room looking around and, past a guard.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, oh, at least I have my own bathroom.
My brain's going, there's straps on the wall. There's blood in one corner. I'm sure it wasn't like that, but
it was like a metal room though. It was really crazy.
I bet it was crazy.
Yeah. Well, Kanye West was in that room like not too long after that. So I was like, Tonya, I should have written Tonya was here.
Welcome, Kanye. I knew you'd be here at some point. You're a little loony.
I know.
That's
funny.
What's the time frame of all that?
1 year.
In 12 months, all that happened? That's
all
insane.
That happened in 1 year.
So what was happening at home? I still have questions about chemo and stuff, but what was happening at home when all this was going on?
Well, luckily, my mom that we talked about earlier, she came down from Washington and she stayed with us. Like every time I had a surgery, I wasn't able to even hold Annabelle for like 4 to 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's a long time.
Yeah. So like not necessarily the gallbladder, but yeah. So after every surgery, so I had the first one and I couldn't hold her for like 4 to 6 weeks. And then, I had the lat flap and I couldn't hold her for 4 to 6 weeks. And so that happened every time. So looking back, my mom was with us for probably like at least 6 months out of that year.
My goodness.
Yeah. And then, I couldn't hold Annabelle. Looking back for like at least 6 months out of that year, that was really hard. She'd sit next to me on the sofa or something. But yeah.
That would be hard. When I was pregnant with Isla, I was also almost a geriatric pregnancy. I was 36 when I was pregnant. And they did some genetic testing where they took some fluid, out, but I had to lay flat for 48 hours after that to let that hole heal. But I had a 2-year-old, almost 2-year-old. So my mother-in-law came in. We lived in this loft apartment and we slept in the loft. So I would hear my mother-in-law going, gee, Georgia, I'm not sure what's for lunch today. And then I would text her and tell her what to make. But I was really sad. And that was only 2 days. Because I couldn't hold her. She couldn't like jump on me. They were like, you need to go somewhere else with your 2-year-old. She's too young. She can't understand. They're rowdy and rambunctious and you need to separate. So that's kind of how we did it. But it was only 2 days. I can't imagine 6 months. I would be really sad. How did it make Annabelle feel, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think she was okay because, my mom kind of picked up right where I left off. Luckily, my mom she was like the end all or is the end all be all of caregivers. That's what she did. She was a foster parent and then she worked in infant rooms and like childcare, excuse me, for her, her whole life.
Oh, okay.
So that's what she did. So Annabelle didn't miss a beat.
She didn't miss out. How were your older kids handling it?
I think they were okay. Sorry.
It's okay.
Like I said about my voice. When I was diagnosed initially, I was really concerned because especially for Ava, being older. And so I sat them down and I asked them, I said, so I want to talk to you guys about something. And I said, what do you think about when you hear the word cancer? And I don't remember which one of them said dying. And I said, okay, well, there are some types of cancer that you can die from. And I said, but that bump that I have, I said, that's cancer, but it's not the kind you die from.
Right.
So right away, I wanted them to know that I was going to be okay. And even though we didn't know everything at that point, I was like, I'm going to do anything I have to do to stay here with these kids.
Yeah, totally.
That was one of the things that the radiologist, when she did the biopsy, I asked her, usually, you know, they won't tell you from the biopsy if it's cancer, if it's not. But I asked her, I said, can you tell by looking at it if that's what it is? And she said, yes. And I want you to know there's a lot we can do for you. I want you to have hope. And I was like, of course I have hope. I have 3 kids. I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
You know, so that like word hope became a big thing for me, like through the whole thing. And I told the girls, I said, you know, I'm not going anywhere. And then I told them, you know, it's kind of like if you have a stuffed animal and something happens to the stuffing inside and you have to take out the bad stuffing and then you put in some new stuffing. I said, so that's what the doctor's going to do. The doctor's going to take out the bad stuffing and then they're going to put in new stuffing. So it's all going to be okay.
And it was.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great way of putting that in a context they could understand and digest, that the stuffed animal. That's really smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really smart. So when you were going through, did you have radiation?
I didn't end up needing radiation.
That's good.
Yeah. Initially, they thought that I was going to have like 6 months of chemo and then a series of radiation also. But when the pathology came back, and it was better than they thought. So I think that, you know, given that the non-invasive was bigger and, like you said, containing it, I ended up with 4 rounds of chemo and I didn't have to do radiation.
So 4 rounds means what?
Every 3 weeks. I think it was every 3 weeks I went in for chemo.
Okay, so you went in 4 times. Yeah. So every 3 weeks.
Yeah, so I started in October and I finished right before Christmas.
I see. Okay. Okay, so that's not so bad.
No, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I've had friends who have types of cancer that they've had to go, like, I think I had one friend who had to go every week.
Yeah, my aunt did when she had ovarian. She went every week. And some weeks she'd be okay, and some weeks she'd just be sick, really sick, and wiped out and angry. And
that's the funny thing is I was thinking about that last night about, I had forgotten, it really does mess with your emotions.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it really does. Because I remember being, like kind of angry and not feeling like, I don't know why I'm feeling angry, but I think it's, the chemo seems to target like weaknesses too. So like this little hip problem that hadn't bothered me in years, and all of a sudden I was having an achy hip or, that kind of stuff. Well,
I would imagine a myriad of feelings come along with having cancer, you know, and anger's got to be one of them. There's got to be, I can't imagine not being angry that I even have to deal with it. You know, I seriously have to go for gallbladder surgery now? I'd be angry. I'd be pissed off. I just went to bed. That's what I got to get up and go to the ER? No.
Oh, yeah. That was like one of the worst pain. In fact, I remember telling the ER nurse, I've had 3 babies and a bilateral mastectomy, and I feel like I'm going to pass out from this pain. So
wow.
Yeah.
We had a friend that had gallbladder surgery, and he said the same, that it was just excruciating. He had gallstones too, and he's had a lot of complications after that surgery.
Oh, yeah.
It's apparently supposed to be a really simple, like no complication, no big deal surgery, just a lot of pain leading up to it. So what do you think I think the person I see you as is a very positive person. I think you come across very positive.
Thanks.
But I want to know what the negative was too. What was the negative in this process for you? Because I think people listening, some people have a melancholy disposition. They just come here very melancholy. Nothing wrong with that. That's how they process the world. But I think if I'm a very sunny disposition person, and I have a friend that's very melancholy, and I think I help her because I can see her negativity and glass half full it. You know what I mean? I go, oh yeah, but here's the half full. And then she, oh, okay. I kind of see the half full. So what was your glass half empty emotions in this process?
I think definitely not being able to hold Annabelle and be there for her and the other 2, I think was really difficult.
How'd that make you feel?
Well, she's still sleeping in the bed with us. So
did you have any guilt about that? Or no?
Maybe a little bit. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So I definitely feel that, I feel that I don't know how long I'll carry that with me, but I feel like I wasn't maybe as there for her as I wanted to be.
Right.
So definitely, I think there's the guilt of it.
Right.
And trying just not to keep that with me. And even for the girls, the fact that they had to worry about me, and every time they hear like people talking about breast cancer on TV, and they were watching American Ninja Warrior, and one of the guy's wife had died from breast cancer, and they all kind of, Ava looked at me, and I'm sure just worrying that it's going to come back. Mm-hmm. I think that's a big thing. I think, once you have it, I don't think there's a way for you to not worry about it coming back.
I can't imagine there would be.
So I've had a lot of anxiety over that. My doctor diagnosed me with PTSD because there was after I finished chemo, and it's kind of like, you're just trying to keep your head above water. And then everything's done, and you leave the doctor's office kind of for the last time, and you're like, oh, I don't need to make a follow-up appointment. Right. And you feel like you're kind of like pushed out the door on your own. Right. And it's kind of like when you take a baby home from the hospital, and you're like, where's the manual? Yeah,
right. Wait, I'm doing this by myself?
It's like so now I'm supposed to just go back to living my life. And, so I was having a lot of problems actually once everything was over, with the PTSD. And I remember going to my oncologist, and I cried from the moment I walked in the door until I walked out the door. I couldn't stop crying. Right. And he's like, but you don't have cancer, And
but it is an emotional process. How could it not be? It's an upheaval.
Exactly.
It's a complete overturn of the box of life, I would imagine.
And when you're going through it, you're, just want to get to the other side. Just want to get to the other side. And then when it's over, you're like, wait, what just happened? And then all of a sudden, the keeping your head above water becomes like the water's creeping up, and, so that was a process. And
well, I know a little bit about PTSD because Bert had PTSD from his work on the Travel Channel. Okay. And you're right. The water level just keeps getting higher and higher. So the way that I don't know if you went into treatment for it, if you went to see a therapist or what you did, but I know for Bert, that was the only thing that was going to fix it. Yeah. Because you have to process it emotionally. Once you're in the safe place, it's kind of when it all falls apart. Right. He was jumping off a building one day. The next day he's like whitewater rafting. The next day he's bungee jumping off a stadium. The next day he's he's in the wild with a lion. The next day, and he's doing this day after day after day, where every day he thinks he might die.
I was just going to say, he's putting his life in peril every single day.
Every day he thought he was going to die. So once and I guess what was explained to me about PTSD is that it is intensity without recovery. That life has to be intensity, recovery. If you're in a situation like a war or a disease or jumping off the stratosphere, there has to be some recovery. And if your body isn't allowed recovery, it goes into PTSD. That's how it was explained to me. So you were just in intensity for 12 months straight. And then when that stopped, what a silence it must have felt like. Yeah.
I remember sitting in the hallway because Annabelle was sleeping in the bedroom, and I was folding laundry in the hallway, and just all of a sudden just crying and thinking and just feeling like I was on a sinking ship is kind of how it felt. And that's when I talked to my mom, and I knew I was like, I have to do something. So I went back to talk to the cancer counselor. And so that's when, things started getting better. I saw my regular doctor, and then I did see the therapist for a while, and that really helped.
Therapy's a miracle if you use it the way it was intended to be used. If you don't use it to just complain. Right. If you use it to make discoveries and make changes and let go of things, right, it's transformative.
Oh, for sure. And and it kind of has helped to realize that the anxiety that I feel. Some people go through cancer, and like you were saying, they're like, life is amazing. I have a second chance. I'm going to do this and this and this. But, I came through it, and I still had 3 kids. Right. And I have, my husband is an actor. So, that's not the most stable career on the planet. Right. So, we've had ups and downs and everything. So, I came through it, and I still had to be a mom, and, I couldn't just go take a vacation and sit on the beach and decompress. Right. So, so I think, so it's the anxiety, I think, like I was talking to the pastor at our church, and I said, why do you think it is that sometimes people come through and they have like this such a positive thing, and then I feel like I have like more anxiety? And he said, well, because you got a rare glimpse that a lot of people don't get at your mortality. So, so I had that moment or a lot of moments where I realized that I could be taken away from the kids, and Scott could have to raise these girls by himself.
Right.
And so there's always like that little like voice in your head, or, I had this pain in my foot, and I remember thinking, people don't get cancer in their foot, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like this the thing like that it's always kind of in the back of your mind.
Right. Well, anxieties a lot of the time come from real fear, from you definitely have a legitimate reason to have that anxiety. I mean, from experience, and I would be scared to death, I think. I would be really scared. So I wonder why they don't require counseling after this process. If they, on your last visit with your oncologist, they go, okay, now the next visit you have is counseling. Why? Because I can't imagine the people who come out all sunshiny, like, I got a second chance. They're not in touch, I don't think, or maybe they're just super lucky, but I can't imagine that is the whole ball of wax of their feelings.
Right.
You've just been terrified. Terrified, I would imagine, for however many months you're in treatment. As strong as you are, it's got to be terrifying.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can remember, I think the last thing I saw each time I was put under anesthesia. And, because every time I had never had surgery before then, I think I'd had my wisdom teeth out or something. And so I remember thinking, like, every time they put me under the anesthesia, thinking like, I hope I wake up,
right.
So yeah, I still have those visuals of it, like seeing the doctors talk to me before I like went under, the assistant or whoever, and thinking, okay, hope I wake up. And
that's so scary.
Yeah.
Now, during this time, is this the time when Scott was having his back problem?
That started right around the time I started chemo.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So Scott had, I don't know what his issue was, but he was like near incapacitated, right?
Oh yeah. My parents were here, and I think that they were getting ready to leave. I'm trying to remember. I think I'd had one round of chemo, and I was getting ready to do the next one. And he started having, I think, like numbness in his face and his arm, and he couldn't stand up because the pain was so bad in his hips. And I remember just telling him, I said, I can't help you up. I mean, here I was like 100 and maybe 20 pounds,
right?
And,
he's a big guy
going through chemo, and he's a big guy. I said, if I can't help you, if you can't get up, I have to call 911. Do I need to call 911? And he said, yeah. He was like he was on the floor with his hands up on the bed, and he couldn't get up.
Oh my God.
So that was really scary. So they took him to the emergency room and gave him some prednisone or something like that, and that's helped. But he's done all kinds of tests. Like, they're basically ruling stuff out instead of really finding out what it is. And he's having a lot of back problems now, but
he still has that?
Yeah.
Oh,
yesterday he came home from the gym, and he's like, I threw out my back. I'm like, when are you going to go to physical therapy? You need to go to physical therapy because, and they've done ultrasounds. They've done all kinds of neurological tests, and, they know what it's not. So,
well,
yeah.
What it's not, is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I mean,
it's probably maybe not anything life-threatening, just something very...
Yeah. Well, initially I thought maybe his body was just so overwhelmed with stress that he was having like a physical reaction to the stress that was going on. But it's been 3 years now, and it will come back, and he now can kind of predict, okay, so it started here, it'll probably move over to the other hip, and then he has to get the prescription. So that's what can kind of, prednisone, is that a steroid? I think that's what.
It is a steroid. And a steroid does what? Is it an anti-inflammatory?
I think so. Yeah.
I think so. So somebody's being inflamed. That's
something.
So strange. I remember hearing that, and I kept thinking, how are you guys getting up in the morning? How are you getting out of bed? There's so much going on over there. I don't know. And I knew Scott better than I knew you from working at our school fundraiser.
Right.
I just adore him. He's just the most positive, fun, happy, sweet, anxious to help, never meet a stranger guy. I just loved him so much from the first time I met him. I was like, what a great guy. That's just such a great guy. I thought, his wife seems really nice. I don't know her as well, but oh my God, who's helping them? I think I asked somebody, who's helping them?
Right.
There's no way Scott's doing this in this condition.
Right.
And there's no way she's doing it. So it's your parents.
Yeah. And
Mystery
Scott's,
solved.
so yeah, my parents, they ended up flying back to Washington, and then Scott's dad came out to help because it was right around Halloween too, and like I was getting ready for the next round of chemo, and so he like took the girls trick-or-treating and that kind of thing. So I stayed home with a friend, with Annabelle, and Scott's dad came out, and that was like the whole thing, like trying to get people to come out because we don't have family in town. But that was actually, I think, one of the very first lessons that I learned when I was diagnosed. Remember I mentioned that day where I was at the doctor's office, or I was at UCLA from 7 a.m. to 4 and 5 in the evening. I came home and I was so exhausted. I laid down and I was checking my email, and I had an email from a friend, and she said, I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to do your laundry. I want you to put it out on the porch in the basket on Friday, and I'll bring it back to you all done on Sunday. And at first I was like, oh, that's ridiculous. I can do my own laundry. I started trying to write her back, and I was too tired to even write an email.
Oh my God.
So that was the moment that I was like, I have to say yes.
Yeah.
I have to say yes. And that was, I think, one of the most incredible things about the whole process is the community that really rallied around us.
Right.
I mean, people that I didn't know very well were bringing us like bags of groceries and bags of things for me to juice, because I was drinking green juices all through everything. And, you know, people would come to the door and bring stuff and offer to pick up the kids, or, you know, and I had someone offer to just come over and take the dog to their house because we, you know, we didn't have enough going on. We decided to get a puppy when I was going through
my God. With the baby.
Yeah.
You're crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You got a puppy with the baby with cancer with the back out. All right. You may be Looney Tune. You maybe should have been in that cell with Kanye. That's crazy.
I know. But I was like, the girls have been through so much.
Yeah.
Our little Maltese had passed away right before I started chemo. She was 13 years old. And
okay, it's making more sense.
Yeah. And the girls, you know, they kept asking. And finally I was like, you know, they need something positive.
Right.
But then, of course, after I had this like lap flap surgery, and I like had my arm in a sling, and I'm trying to like chase the puppy and chase the walking baby. You know, the puppy would grab the baby's sock and go behind the chair, and then I'd be going to get the sock, and I'd turn around and the baby's climbing on something, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I have 2 toddlers. What's happening here? So,
you know, this neighborhood we live in is exceptional, I think. Mm-hmm. Do you think so?
Oh, for sure.
It's not normal, I don't think.
I don't think so either. Mm-hmm. I mean, it can't be like this everywhere. It's incredible.
I think it is like this in my hometown of 1,600 people who have never left the hometown, and everybody knows everybody. Mm-hmm. But to create this from scratch, like this community has, it's really an exceptional place to live. Mm-hmm. I'm not at all surprised that people were dropping off groceries because of where we live. Mm-hmm. And because of who you guys are. You know, you guys are really nice, really giving people. So, not that you have to be that to receive that, but people are more apt to give, I think, when you're a nice person, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
So what happens? So you then were on a Stand Up for Cancer campaign. Is that right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Okay. So one of the moms at school works for an organization that works with Stand Up to Cancer. And she emailed me one day and she said, we're going to be doing this PSA. Do you mind if I submit you for it? We're looking for cancer survivors. And I was like, oh, sure. Go ahead. Use whatever photos you want from Facebook. And she knew my whole story. And, I didn't think anything really after that. And then all of a sudden I get a call from her and she's like, so they picked you. And I'm like, oh, cool. She's like, so it's with Morgan Freeman. And I'm like, what?
Wait, what? That's crazy.
So, she's like, you don't have any lines, but you guys, so I went down to the studio, and we did photos together, and here comes Morgan Freeman, and I'm like thinking, okay, don't talk about Shawshank, because I'm like, everyone probably talks to him about Shawshank.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, what do I talk to him about? And so he comes over, and we're just settling in while the photographer's getting ready, and I'm like, what did I say? I was like, so my kids love Dolphin Tail.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
That's like what comes out of my mouth.
Yeah.
But, he was so sweet, and he was really, professional, and we just started talking about kids, and I think he's got like 11 grandchildren or something. He's got a really big family. So we just talked about that. And then he went to do his part of the video PSA, and that was just amazing to watch. They would tell him like, it needs to be 3 seconds shorter, and he would do the same thing, and it would just be 3 seconds shorter. And then they during that they came up to me and they're like, so you're going to have 3 lines.
Oh God.
And I was terrified. I was, because I was like, I was told I wasn't going to have any lines.
Right.
And so they gave me the script, and they said, you're just going to repeat 3 lines that Morgan had. So, it was like we were talking about earlier, I've done some acting, but I'm not really an actress. And so I'm looking at, my worst nightmare was like forgetting lines. So I'm looking at this paper trying to remember this line, and then I look up and I'm like, what was the line? So what they ended up doing, they looped Morgan's lines so I could hear it, and then I just repeated it. And they didn't end up actually using it, but the PSA turned out really amazing. And it was Genentech is this organization that they do research, and they're creating like all these new treatments for cancer and that kind of thing. So that actually ran on like billboards. It was on billboards and magazines. I had a lot of people flying on Southwest Airlines like texting me, you're in the magazine.
That's
and
cool.
So for me, that was really like making lemonades out of a year of lemons, getting to do something like that. And that just kind of, it really sparked something in me that I realized that even though, I had won this lottery that nobody wants to win, that maybe I can do something to help other people.
Right.
Going through the same thing.
Yeah, that is the truth. I think that's why we're all here, is to help each other. You never know what one person listening to this goes, I'm changing my perspective about my process, or I've been the exact same place, and now I don't feel alone.
Exactly.
That's the thing. I think most of the time people who go through any type of terrible, abuse, illness, bankruptcy, anything, they feel very alone. And to not feel alone is very healing.
Right.
Yeah.
And to get that diagnosis, I know what that feels like. So I've had a number of people come to me, my mother was just diagnosed with cancer, or my friend was just diagnosed with cancer, or even friends of mine going for their mammogram. They're like, I'm going for my mammogram, and I'm really nervous.
Right.
And, they know that they can come to me, and that makes me feel better to maybe they're not quite as scared as they were because they have seen me go through it, and they've seen me come out the other side. And so that's
That's great.
Yeah.
So did you lose your hair in chemo?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I did was my hair was like down to the middle of my back when I was diagnosed. It was really long. Right. Because I'd been pregnant, and you get that pregnant hair. And,
yep. It's like a chia pet. It just
exactly. It was everywhere. But so what I did is before my mastectomy, I cut it up to my shoulders. And then before I started chemo, I did like this cute pixie cut. So I kind of treated myself to these nice new cute haircuts right before each step. And then, one night, that feeling if you have your hair in a ponytail for a really long time and you take the ponytail out and it's like kind of sore in that spot. So I kind of felt something like that, and I put my hand in to rub it, and I came out with like a handful of hair. And I was like, all right, here we go. And I was like, I did this thing. I took a picture. I was like, okay, goodbye, long locks. I'll see you again someday.
Yeah.
And then I called my friend and said, can you come over tomorrow and shave my head for me?
Yeah.
So we set that up, and she came over, and I didn't look in the mirror the whole time because I didn't know how I was going to feel. And halfway through, I had her stop so we could take a picture of me with a mohawk.
Oh, how cool.
So I have a cool picture of me with this like tough look on my face with a mohawk.
That's
and then
awesome.
What makes it even funnier is that Annabelle's little exerciser was in the background.
How funny.
I
You're a
was like,
badass mom.
Exactly. I love that photo. But I still hadn't looked in the mirror. I just knew I was feeling tougher. And so she finished it, and I looked in the mirror, and I didn't feel sad at all. I felt stronger.
It was your warrior cut.
Exactly.
Heck yeah.
And then the next step was having Annabelle see me, because that's what I was worried about. You know, she was
Right. It's little.
She was, I'm trying to remember how old she was, if she was 9 months old or something like that. At that point, maybe 8 months old. And the first thing, and that's the picture that they used in the background of the Stand Up to Cancer PSA, is the picture of the first time Annabelle saw me with my head shaved.
Oh, yeah?
It's really sweet and special. And when I gave them a bunch of pictures, and when they picked that one, I told them the story, and they were like, that's incredible. I looked at her, and she just smiled.
Aww.
You know, a lot of, I think, babies, if they saw their mom with like a different haircut, I remember when I got my haircut when I had Ashley, and she was like, when is it going to grow back? She didn't like it shorter
Right.
than it was. But Annabelle smiled at me, and I knew that it was going to be okay.
That's so great. What a great story. So what about you has changed post this? What changed in you, either like physically or emotionally or mentally? What's different now than before?
Well, the physically, it was really a lot to come back from. You know, it was a lot of trauma on my body. And I've heard people say that for every hour you're under anesthesia, it takes your body like a month to kind of regenerate and, you know,
Really?
recover. And I added it up, and I was like, oh, okay, no wonder it took me 2 years.
Right.
Because I was under that much anesthesia.
That's a lot.
But for me, I think the big recovery has been that, like, trying to get back to exercising, because I was pregnant, and then I was nursing a baby, and then I was diagnosed, and then I had the surgeries in a year. So that was like, I was the one that was in like the body pump class twice a week, you know,
Right.
before all of that happened. And then here I went like 3 years, 2.5 years without even being able to really exercise very much. I was in physical therapy, like
Right.
2 years of physical therapy, but that was really different.
Not the same.
Not the same at all. And so Scott, for Christmas, was it not this Christmas, but the year before, got me a membership to Gold's Gym, where he goes, and
Yeah.
he got me some sessions with the trainer. So that, I think, was a big changing point, was working out with this trainer. So I was able to, I found out like that I couldn't do the exercises the same way.
Right.
You know, there were a couple things that we tried to do. And then like I was in so much pain, I couldn't even turn the steering wheel.
Wow.
And it was like things that you normally would be able to do. But I went to see my surgeon, and I asked him about it, and he said, well, you don't have a lat muscle on this side anymore. We took that out.
Oh my God.
You know, and he was like, you can't hang from stuff.
Yeah, right? That's over.
No more monkey bars for me.
Right.
And I have to be in control of the weight. So it was one of those things, like it's been a year, and I definitely feel like I'm back on track finally. But I think that's one thing too that a lot of people don't realize is when you have all these surgeries, you know, you have to really like relearn things. Like, oh, I can't do the tricep exercise that way. I have to do it this way. Kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Because everything's different. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and so physically it was a big recovery, and I'm really like happy that we had the insurance, that I was able to go do physical therapy. And
Right.
and then, you know, the working with the trainer was just, to me, in my mind, it was a continuation of physical therapy.
Sure.
And it was also an hour on that twice a week day that I could just go in there and not think about anything.
Right.
I didn't have to worry about, you know, getting the girls to school or, you know,
Right.
this and that, the other thing. I had that hour. And so I remember telling the trainer, I said, I think this is like how people feel when they go to yoga. You know, because I was always one of those people, I could never do yoga because my mind would just keep going.
Right.
I would be thinking about all the things that I needed to do, or, you know, but when I was working out with this trainer, like he's telling me what to do, and I couldn't think about other things because I
Right.
was having to like learn these, you know, exercises and focus.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was kind of like therapy for me too.
Sounds like it was a bit of a type of therapy. Mm-hmm. Therapy comes in all forms. You don't have to sit and talk about stuff. Mm-hmm. definitely an escape
Exactly.
or a quieting of the mind in a certain way. Okay, so the recovery was really hard. Do you feel like you lost a lot of strength in general or stamina after this?
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I even before I had cancer, I remember telling my doctor, like, when I was pregnant, I said, I'm so tired. I think something's wrong with me. And she's like, you're pregnant and you have 2 kids. You know? Oh, yeah.
Did she end that sentence with duh?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
You think about it, you go, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I did that too forever. I go, I don't know why I'm so tired. And then I'd think, it's because Isla Kreischer wakes up between 2 and 3 every day. And I have to wake up and put her back in the bed.
Exactly.
That's it.
That's it.
It's not rocket science. But you think, I think our generation somewhat thinks we are like 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we could lift this house and throw it across the street. And it's just simply not true. I don't know why we came up with that, but I feel like a lot of my friends are like, I don't understand why I'm sick for the 3rd day.
Right.
Well, because sometimes it takes 10 days to get well.
Right.
From like the common cold.
Right.
And we don't give ourselves that allowance.
Right. Oh, no.
You know?
I mean, even like I was saying, even when I was going through chemo and I was feeling like so sick, I had to get up and I had to go, get her keep her from climbing up the stairs or whatever. I couldn't just,
recover.
Exactly.
You had intensity with no recovery.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So I definitely think that's why I feel like it's taken so long and I get tired and that kind of thing. But
so you were saying earlier in the kitchen, you have chemo brain.
Oh, yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, it's funny because a good example of it was like at school. Like I would go for pickup at school and I would have like a friend come up to me and start talking and we'd be talking. And then I would realize I don't remember this person's name.
Yeah.
And I've known this person for years at school. And the harder I tried to remember their name, like the more it was lost to me. Or I would remember their kid's name, but I wouldn't remember their name.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. And it's just being really, really forgetful. And I remember seeing something somewhere that said, nothing's really lost until mom can't find it. Because I was always the one that knew like where everything was. And now I'll be like laying in bed trying to remember, where did I put that necklace that I wanted to wear? And, not being able to fall asleep because I'm trying to remember and not being able to remember. But for me, I think a lot of it was not being able to remember people's names or that kind of stuff.
Simple things.
Simple things.
Yeah, I have that with no chemo. I don't know if that's I have 3 kids too. One just happens to be 46.
Oh, yeah.
But I wonder if that's just part of aging too.
Yeah.
If yours accelerated because you were in so much stress with the chemo in and of itself is very stressful on the body, not to mention everything else you went through, all the surgeries. But
well, I also have a medication that I have to take called tamoxifen for 5 years. It's a hormone blocker to help the cancer not come back.
Yeah.
And it basically puts you into chemically induced menopause. So that's been like a
Super
challenge
fun.
on top of everything, hot flashes and all. But I think part of that is literally my body thinks that I'm like 20 years older than I really am because, the whole menopause process starts and so I definitely feel sometimes like
wait a minute, did I skip 10 years
exactly
like that?
exactly
I would imagine because menopause, I am perimenopausal and the hot flash, I don't have hot flashes, but I have night sweats and I feel like I'm out of control. I'm like totally out of control of my own faculties and I hate that feeling, and I know that it's part of life, is totally completely out of my control, but it doesn't make me feel good.
Right.
I feel like seriously I'm sweating through entire pajamas and changing sheets and
going in
what's
the bathroom.
wrong with you, Leanne? Can't you control yourself? Your olfactory system's gone crazy.
Exactly. It's like someone flips a switch and just lights this fire from inside of you.
It's bizarre. Now I don't have the hot flash at all. The sweating at night, I feel like I'm in a swamp.
Oh, yeah.
Literally, I'm just soaked. Like the rim around my t-shirt is wring out, soaking everything. So anyway, so
been there.
Besides the chemo brain, anything else changed? Like I know somebody who had like straight hair and now it's curly.
Oh, my hair grew back. First, it grew back super soft, and it was like baby's soft hair, you know,
really fine.
Yeah. Because I lost it like everywhere. I was completely bald as bald can get. And so yeah, it grew back super soft, but then it grew back really, really curly, like really curly. My hair had a little bit of a wave to it before, but it grew back really curly, and it just kept growing out.
Like you had a fro?
Yes, exactly.
Oh my God. I would not know what to do with that hair.
I know. And it was so funny because I look back at pictures and I was like, here I am with this big smile on my face, and my hair is just like crazy and like out to like sticking off my head. One time I decided to try to use a flat iron and see if I could straighten it, and I looked like Brian Grazer. It was sticking straight off my head. And there's a picture somewhere of that, but I never posted it anywhere because I was just like laughing so hard. And I think I put on a hat or something that day, but it grew back really, really curly. And eventually it started growing down. Then I decided, like, I had never tried blonde hair in my whole life. And so I decided, if not now, when?
Right.
And so I tried blonde, and I really like it. But
that's good.
Yeah. So it was that's another thing, you know, I think I was just like, you know, I've always wanted to try it. I'll just try it.
That's something that changed?
Yeah.
Is that what would you say that is? You took more, well, it's not risk. I guess it is sort of a risk you may not like the hair.
Right.
To just go, I may as well try it. Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
And I think part of it too was because I was like, well, I've had long hair, I've had short hair, I've had no hair. Mm-hmm. I might as well try blonde hair.
Why not? Right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's changed has it changed anything with the way you view food? Or I think it changed the way you viewed like products, like beauty products and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk to me about that.
Well, that was like a big realization. That was something, a friend sent me, you know, a box of Beauty Counter products, and I was trying them, and I like really liked the scent of the face oil and this and that. And so I kind of started asking questions and finding things out. And I found out that the makeup line that I was using, I started using this particular makeup line on my wedding day, basically. And I had been using the same makeup line for 15 years, like literally 15 years the same. And I, through a little research, found out that some of their makeup had known carcinogens in it. And I was like, wait a second. I've been putting this lip gloss and lipstick on my mouth multiple times a day for 15 years, and it has carcinogens in it?
Yeah.
What is happening here? And I tell people that it was kind of like that scene in The Matrix where he finds out he's been living in a false world, because I'm like, how is this not illegal?
Right.
But it's not. You know, I mean, the United States hasn't had new laws restricting skincare and makeup ingredients since like the early 1930s.
I heard, I think the creator of Beauty Counter speaking about this on NPR, maybe?
Yeah, Greg Renfro. Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah.
How is that okay?
Exactly.
How is that okay?
It still boggles my mind that that's okay. So that's why, you know, some people would slowly switch their stuff over, but I was like, oh no.
I'm done.
Yeah, done. And I had this like full bottle of this foundation, I remember, and I thought, well, I could give it away. And I'm like, I can't give this to anybody.
Right.
It's like I'm giving them like
poison.
It's got carcinogens in it. Yeah. So I just threw everything away and switched everything over to a Beauty Counter. And that's another thing I feel like I've kind of become more of an advocate for safe products. And, you know, I tell people like, check your products with the Environmental Working Group, or there's an app called Think Dirty, but there are so many safe options out there. And of course, I love Beauty Counter because it works for me. Right. But I just want people to be safe. Right. And so that's been a big thing for me, is trying to like advocate more for safe skincare products. And, you know, if something has fragrance, that's really a dangerous sign too. So that's something people need to look out for, because when they passed the law for fragrance, that was when like people would have their secret ingredient that they didn't want to share with anyone. And, if I share my secret ingredient, someone will copy it.
I didn't know that.
So they passed a law that said like, okay, you can put it under fragrance. But really, that's a way, I think, for that companies get away with hiding these dangerous chemicals, is they
because who knows what it is.
Exactly. They don't have to disclose it. So
That's crazy. Now, scent from an essential oil is okay,
Yeah.
right? That's crazy. I didn't know they did that.
And that's the thing is like, so that's kind of become my little kind of catchphrase with, when I talk about Beauty Counter and things, I say, it's because people shouldn't have to wonder if their lipstick gave them cancer.
Right.
And, I get like goosebumps when I talk about that because it's such like a big deal. Like you're putting things on your skin that absorbs into your skin. Ava did the health class at school and they sent her home with a little thing of deodorant. And I was like, So I looked it up and sure enough that deodorant had known like hormone disruptors.
Oh, really?
And it was a brand that everyone uses. Right. And I realized at that moment, I said, this is how it happens. They give them this little deodorant. And then when they go to buy more, they buy that same brand because that's what I used. And I'll just keep using that. And you use it for 30 years and then you suddenly have cancer.
Right.
Or you suddenly have fertility issues and you don't know why.
Right.
I mean, there are things, and they're finding Roundup in our food, weed killer in our food.
What?
Yeah. You didn't hear about that?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Roundup is terrible.
It's weed killer. And they're finding it in some cereals.
What? In cereal? Because of the wheat.
Yep. Exactly.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Had no idea. I'm so irresponsibly ignorant about that kind of stuff. I mean, that really is the truth. It's irresponsible to be ignorant, but I am irresponsibly ignorant about stuff like that. The carcinogen that you're talking about, that I don't think anybody's ever thought, well, I'm rubbing this on my face every day. I'm actually putting a because your skin is your largest organ.
Exactly.
It's absorbing into your whole system. Makes so much sense. And yeah, I never thought about it like that. I mean, I use Beauty Counter. I am horrible at skincare. If I use anything, I use Beauty Counter, but I don't use it often because I am the worst. I've always been the worst. I don't wear makeup, hardly ever. But when I don't even know that you talked to me about this. I think maybe Sam talked to me about why you were selling Beauty Counter. And that first time I went to the party and bought some stuff and I liked the stuff. And I was like, well, I'm not a diva with beauty products. I just assume use the stuff that's pure and clean because I'm not attached to any. I am not that girl, and nothing wrong with being that girl. But I was like, well, then I'll just switch to this because I'd rather just know for sure it's okay for you.
Right.
And we use like an organic deodorant, but because I didn't want to put there's like metal in some of the deodorant and I didn't want to put that in my kids. And then I thought, well, then why am I putting it in me?
Right.
That's stupid. Oh, not for you, but I'll take the metal, So I was like, well, wait a minute, maybe I should switch too. Because, you think about those things for your kids, you keep your kids safe, but I don't think about that for me. But yeah, that's a really interesting thing to think about, to just kind of look at what you put on your body, not just in your body, because everybody knows not to smoke, not to drink, too much, not to, not to eat fried foods, all that's kind of duh.
But when you think about like how many, it wasn't really that long ago that they didn't even realize how dangerous smoking was.
True.
So then you think about like, so now we're finding out, about things in food and we're finding about the chemicals in our cleaning products and our skincare products causing these things. And you think, gosh, what is it going to be like when our kids are our age?
Right.
The things that they're going to find out that we're doing now that we don't realize, are contributing to health issues in the future.
Right. It's crazy. So that changed for you, the health, the beauty skincare. And you sell Beauty Counter.
I do.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I know.
Yep.
I know.
Oh, thanks.
I still buy through you. Even though I go online, I go, Tonya, she's my person.
Thank you.
And
it makes me happy when, even if someone orders just a lip gloss from me, that to me, it's not as much about, the business of selling the product. It's that I know now that friend is using something safe.
Right.
That I know that, now the lip gloss that they're putting on their mouth doesn't contain carcinogens.
Right. Such a noble point of view, really. If we all could just be a little more noble in our points of view, I think we'd be in a much better place, right? in
I
the
think
world.
so too.
I think so. So you mentioned your pastor.
Mm-hmm.
Were you religious before you were diagnosed, or did did religion intensify after your diagnosis? How did it affect your religion?
I always went to church, like with friends when I was a kid or when I was older. When I moved here, we started going to the church that I actually work at part-time now. I do their social media and their website and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I definitely feel like it brought me like closer as far as realizing the miracle and realizing the mortality, I suppose. I think that definitely increased my faith and
Right.
And I feel like I've gotten more connected with people around me, like probably more on the spiritual like basis and stuff, just kind of, more wanting to do more to help the people around me. So that's probably more, based in that as well.
Right. I wonder, do you think, I'm not very religious, but I do believe in God. I do believe there is a higher power and that there are purposes for people. Mm-hmm. And not that our path is laid out entirely and that we have no free will, mm-hmm. because I believe we have free will, mm-hmm. but that you are kind of who you're supposed to be, and who you were meant to be. I think that's been a hard thing for me, is realizing that I am where I'm supposed to be. I feel like I've always been that person, like, oh, did I make the right decision to leave that job, 5 years ago? If I hadn't left that job, would I be in this, spot that I'm in, kind of thing, or that kind of thing. So I think that this is part of it. I just lost. I'm like, what was I going to say? We were talking about faith.
Yeah.
And I think,
one of my brothers actually has a really hard time with having faith, because his daughter, my niece, was diagnosed with leukemia when she was 6 years old. And, we saw her go through that. And she's wonderful. She's healthy. She's stronger than ever. She's like run marathons. And we had different views. I viewed it as she was healed. Yeah. But he viewed it as, how could God let my daughter get leukemia?
Right. She was cursed.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's interesting because even, growing up I don't remember how old I was when that happened, but, we viewed things differently. Right. And even, I lost another brother to suicide when I was 22 and he was 23. And that was another kind of confirmation for my other brother that how could God let that happen? Right. And, for me, it was like, how sad is it that he was going through, my brother that passed, that he was going through something that he couldn't see a way out of. Right. And then, I thought if he wasn't meant to be released from that turmoil, then something would have happened to stop it. And as hard as that is for some people to maybe hear, I feel that, that he was released from that. And it's like when you watch someone be sick for a really long time and then they finally pass away, you feel bad and you miss that person, but you think they're not suffering anymore. So I think that's kind of a good example of, how two people can see the same situation in such two different ways. Right. It increased my faith, I guess. Right. Whereas it challenged his. And so.
Yeah, things like that clarify my belief in God. Mm-hmm. It clarifies it, where I really believe that things like that happen because that was that person's path. Right. And that person was supposed to affect other people. That was the purpose of whatever happened, of a suicide or a sickness or a car accident that changes your life forever. Right. Then I don't know. I think it's, maybe it's faith-based to not live in regret, to believe that you are taken care of, even if it's hard, even if what you're doing right now is a struggle and terrible, that there's a purpose for it. Right. is gives you hope. Like you said, it gives you comfort in some way. Even though I don't go to church, I haven't been to church in forever. I don't have a problem with church. I just don't I just don't go to church. But I very much believe that there is something bigger at work than me, for sure. I have no doubt that other things know more than I do.
Right.
And to just relax into that. And
Exactly.
just relax into it and go, well, I'm supposed to have this breast cancer right now while Scott's on the floor and can't get up, and I have a child crawling, because I'm supposed to learn something, gain something, give something.
Exactly.
Something is coming of this, because if you didn't believe something was coming of it, it would be hopeless. You'd be in a hopeless place, right?
Right. And I feel like the very first time that someone came to me and said that in fact, I remember like someone came to me, a friend of mine, and emailed me or texted me and said that she was going in for her mammogram and she was really nervous. And that was kind of the moment for me that I realized that this, I think, is what I'm supposed to do. This is,
right.
And, I tell people, like, I'll never give cancer the credit for the good things that have happened since then.
Right.
But like you were saying, like that was part of my path.
Right.
And now, I'm able to help people.
Right.
I'm able to advocate for, safer skincare products. I signed up for Ancestry DNA, and through talking to that biological aunt, now I'm closer with a biological cousin. That's and her daughter, who's Annabelle's age.
That's amazing.
We travel back and forth and visit each other. She's in San Diego. And just last week, I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I looked down at my phone, and it says, Ancestry says, you have a new match. And I'm like, oh. So I look at it, and it says that it's a first cousin. And it turns out it wasn't a first cousin. It was a biological half-brother.
That's amazing.
So now, literally just in the past week, I've gotten in touch with my biological father's family.
Wow.
So that probably wouldn't have happened,
right,
if I hadn't started feeling like I really need to find out some family history.
Sure.
Because I have 3 girls, and I need to know, like, if there's something I need to, if I can help prevent for them, like cancer.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So then what happens is your heart expands from this experience, right? You were given the opportunity to expand your circle of love by finding all these family members that you maybe had no motivation to find or didn't have any reason to look for particularly, and when you're in the thick of 3 kids, who has time,
right?
But when your heart opens like that, and more people in your community embraces and helps with you, the person that gets credit for that is not cancer, it's you. You get credit for that. You get credit for creating a more open heart from that experience, instead of shutting it down and going, this was terrible.
Right.
I don't want to talk about it. This was the darkest days. I'm sure that you had days when you did feel like that, but that doesn't serve the world.
Right. And that's actually one thing that our pastor, he died a year ago, but he told me all the time, oh, thanks. He was with our church for 27 years. So,
oh my gosh.
18 or 19 years as our pastor.
Wow.
And he would tell me all the time how thankful he was that I was so open with my story and what was going on with me, because he said a lot of people wouldn't want to talk about it and they'd want to keep it to themselves. And,
right.
I've known a couple of people that were diagnosed after me that told me about it, but said, please don't tell anybody. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to make it a thing.
Right.
And for me, I was just like, it was so different, because I felt like the more I talked about it, the more I embraced my community, the better it was for me.
Right. Because we need each other.
We do.
And not everybody's the same. I'm not saying it's wrong not to talk. That's everybody's personal choice. But I would imagine I would stand on the roof and shout, I have cancer. Who's making lasagna? Because I don't have time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would be... to be open to receive, right, allows you to give more.
Right.
Because it's reciprocal.
Exactly.
It creates more energy in you to be able to give back.
Right.
It's such a powerful thing that 99% of the people in the world want to be a part of.
Exactly.
They want to help you.
Exactly. And how amazing is it? I remember seeing this kind of meme thing. It said, I want to inspire people. I want someone to look at me and say, because of you, I didn't give up. And
That's amazing.
I feel like that's like encompasses like the whole like reason why, you know, I was excited to come to talk to you, and why, you know, I'm excited about sharing like Beauty Counter and different things, is because even if, you know, there's one person that I inspire to not give up, then that's a phenomenal feeling.
It's a phenomenal feeling. It is, because that is what we were meant to do. We're tribal people. We are not lone wolves.
No.
We are tribes, and we have to do that for each other. I wish it were more in, I don't, in any stretch of the imagination, want to make America great again. But there is something really great about the way my grandparents grew up, in that everyone knew everybody, like in our little community here, and everybody helped everybody.
Right.
And in the broader spectrum of the U.S., I think that has gotten really lost.
Yeah, me
and
too.
it's very your team or my team instead of our team. We're all on the same team. And why we can't see that we're all on the same team, even if we don't agree. You know, you don't have to all have the same opinion,
Right.
or the same beliefs to agree. I mean, the people that wrote the Constitution didn't all have the same religious beliefs, but they came to an agreement, and they moved forward with it, with compromises and listening, and not just listening, but hearing
Right.
what someone says, and being able to respect that feeling as well as their own. That's so lost today, I feel.
Right.
It really is a shame.
Yeah. There are too many people out there that think it's either my way or the highway.
Yeah, it's true. And we need each other. Well, thank you so much for talking about this with me today. And
thank you for
like you
having
just
me.
said, if one person who listens is inspired or helped, then I am thrilled. I have been inspired, and my purpose always is for me to learn, and I learned a lot. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
And
come back again. We'll talk about something else. What else can we talk about, Tonya?
I don't know. We could probably talk a lot more about adoption, and
We could do
you know,
that.
that kind of stuff.
Let's do that. Let's do another one about adoption.
Okay.
I'll see if I can find someone else who was adopted. So that would be a good juxtaposition. I really wanted this one to be just you,
Thank you.
because your story is really special. And so is everybody who has your story. You know, everybody. That's such a...
I know I'm going to leave here and think, oh, I should have talked about this. Or I
Is there
should have
anything
talked
we
about
missed?
that.
Tell me. Is there anything you think of now?
No, I mean, we talked about the stand up to cancer thing. That was like a fantastic thing, getting to do that. And
Yeah.
yeah.
It was amazing. I know I kept seeing the campaign everywhere. Oh my God, that's so great. She turned that into this. Lemons into lemonade right there. That's amazing. So I guess one thing I didn't ask about was, how was Scott in this process? How was he?
He was really great. I mean, I talk about not being able to get up off the couch when I'm sick, but he's the one that gets up in the morning with the girls, like at the crack of dawn, like 6 a.m. Even though I'm awake, he lets me like wake up slowly, you know, that kind of thing. So he gets up and he gets them out of bed, and, you know, sometimes we have 3. So, you know, he'll take 2 this way and I'll take 1 that way, and,
Right.
and that kind of thing. But I mean, that's, even though it's hard having, not the steady income, it's amazing that our kids get to have both of us with
Totally.
them, you know, like 24/7 basically, you know, unless he's working, we're both there, and it's kind of a team effort. And, you know, he does his laundry and I do the girls' laundry, and, you know, then he'll fold it and put things where they don't go.
Right? Oh, I have
you
one
know.
of those. But he doesn't do any of the first things. He just put things where it doesn't go.
Yeah, I'll find like jeans in my underwear drawer, and I'm like, oh,
perfect.
Scott did the laundry. Cool.
Well, thanks for doing the laundry.
I'll just
Right.
move this over here.
Well, I think
know.
if I had gone through what you had gone through, Bert Kreischer would have become totally dismantled. He would have, I actually said, I think I did an episode about menopause.
Oh,
And my
I could
biggest,
have been here to talk about that.
I
too.
didn't know, I had no idea you were going through it. I, in that episode, said my biggest fear about menopause is that I'll have to take care of Bert while I'm in menopause. So I can't imagine what would happen in my world if I had had your experience in this world. I don't know what Bert would have been. He's a lovely human being. Caretaker doesn't really go next to his name.
Well, I think that's one of the things too. I think is the takeaway is that people are really stronger than they know. Until
Right.
what is it? You're not as strong as you realize until you have to be.
Right.
So I mean, with Scott, my mom luckily was able to come down and help us out a lot.
Yeah.
So when she was there, my mom was kind of like she was on Annabelle duty.
Yeah.
And Scott was able to take care of the other two. And that kind of thing. So it definitely became a team.
Right.
You become a team.
Right. Was he scared?
Oh, I think so.
Was he emotional?
He was. When I came back from that, being the initial appointment of the mastectomy and the ultrasound, I had to stop and pick up one of the kids at a friend that was watching her on the way. And when we got home, I sent her inside. It was Ashley. I sent her inside. And I was like, I have to tell you something to Scott. And I was like thinking in my head, like, how do I even say this?
Yeah.
How do I word this? And he looked at me, he's like, just spit it out. I'm like, I might have cancer. And, the look on his face was the look on your face right now. Like, you're just like, that's like the very last thing you expected to come out of my mouth. He thought that, Ashley got in trouble at the friend's house or whatever,
right.
Yeah. And then his brother was visiting us at the time, and I remember talking to his brother and thinking, where's Scott? And I went upstairs, and he was upstairs. He was crying, and I was like, I'm like, we can't cry yet. We don't know what's happening. And I said, this isn't a Disney movie. The mom doesn't die in this one.
Right, right.
So that was kind of, that was something that I've repeated over, kind of like you have been assigned this mountain to show that it can be moved.
Right.
That's where I got the name for my blog website is Hope Moves Mountains.
Oh, I didn't know you had a blog website.
I do. I'm working on
it.
Hope Moves Mountains. I have Instagram and I have a website, Hope Moves Mountains. And that's where that came from, was hope. When, the doctor told me to have hope, that became a big thing for me. I was like, of course I have hope. And you've been assigned this mountain to show it can be moved.
Right.
Became a big thing for me. But that was the thing too, when, Scott, I could tell he was really scared. He was picturing himself raising these 3 girls by himself.
Well, not to mention losing you.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's a marriage. Your kids are forever, but a marriage lasts way past they're gone.
Right.
When they're gone, it's really, that's a really big deal. I know you've said that a lot, that he would be raising them by himself, but I think the loss of you would be enormous.
Yeah.
Enormous. If Bert lost me, he would be dead. He would just not know what to do with himself.
Right.
Which is, and I wouldn't, if he died also, it would be terrible. I mean, the raising the kids part goes on, just like it went on when you were in chemo. Scott would just go on.
Right.
But the relationship, you guys have from outside looking in, you seem to have a really great relationship. So that would be, I bet he was crying about that. I bet he was crying about losing you. The other stuff would have worked itself out.
Yeah.
I bet he's such a sweet person. I bet he was just devastated.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So, and I think so when I went to the biopsy, he stayed with the girls and a friend took me to the biopsy. And, I look back on that and I think, why didn't he want to go with me to the biopsy? But I think he was just too scared.
Yeah.
I think that it was more, he wanted to be with the girls, I think.
Right.
Because I think he was, in that moment where, what am I going to do if this turns out to really be
really
cancer?
bad?
Yeah.
Really
bad.
Bless his little heart.
I know.
He made it through.
Yes.
Bless his heart.
Yeah.
I can imagine the look on his face when you said that. Poor little thing. He's just such a sweet guy. I bet his heart broke in that moment. Just broke. Poor little thing.
The whole, that's the second, the whole world changed,
So how is your relationship different post cancer? Is he more considerate or less, or what, is anything different? Do you notice?
I mean, I think it's probably both. It's kind of a give and a take. I mean, obviously going through menopause and, that kind of stuff brings in even, more emotions for me. And, the extra 5 pounds that your body like seems to gain when you're going through menopause,
Right.
makes me feel a little less comfortable in my own skin sometimes. And, so I think that, it's been a little bit of adjustment for him for sure. I think just dealing with the post-cancer me is a little bit, maybe, like maybe a little more emotional than I was before.
Right.
And sometimes, we just have to go through like the motions of things instead of getting to go, spend time with each other or that kind of thing.
What do you mean? Go through the motions of things instead of spending
Day-to-day life with 3 kids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Day-to-day life with 3 kids, I think.
But that's not about cancer. That's about 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 kids is a lot. And you didn't have 3 kids really essentially before your cancer. They all showed up at the same time.
Yeah.
That's her teratoma tumor in your boob.
Right.
It was another little Annabelle.
Right. But I think, the being maybe more tired, that kind of thing.
Right.
So, yeah.
That would be an adjustment, I would imagine, for your spouse. Bert and I have talked a lot about pre and post kids because with no sleep,
Right.
And I don't want to stay up till midnight watching movies again. I'm up at 5.
Oh, exactly. By the time we get Annabelle to bed, I'm ready to go to bed. And so that's definitely the adjustment. And, there's not to get too deep into those things, but, intimacy is a little different when you're going through menopause. It's a little more difficult. And I think a lot of people don't realize that part of it. And that's been an adjustment for him,
Right.
trying to find other ways to be close.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish you'd been on that
Hormones
episode.
change things.
Hormones change it. I wish you'd been on that menopause episode because both the ladies on it had none of those issues.
Oh,
They were like,
okay.
oh, no, everything down there is fine.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was like,
no.
well, I hear that it happens for a lot of ladies that it's not fine.
No.
But they were both like, nope, totally working fine.
Oh,
so,
yeah. My one of the cancer support websites or Facebook pages that I'm on, like that's all the talk. Like
Is it?
There's people that talk about that nonstop, It's
Yeah.
like, what's the best, stuff to use to get that area working again? And, coconut oil, actually.
Oh, good to know.
There's
Coconut
a
oil.
certain lube that has coconut oil, and that's definitely the good thing. But yeah, it definitely, for me, it definitely changed things. I don't know if it's different being chemically induced.
Right.
So my hormones were forced to change.
Right.
So I don't know if that's different, but I think that it, and then having 3 kids on top of it for sure, So yeah, like you said, Scott will stay up and watch Netflix series, and I'm like, I'm going to bed.
Yeah, it is odd when that happens. It happens for me. I mean, Bert gets off stage at 1:30 in the morning. So when he comes home on the 2 or 3 days a week he's home, he doesn't want to go to bed at 10. And he wants me to adjust my schedule to accommodate his schedule because he's only here for a couple days. It's not like it's the same schedule every day. So then I can spend the 5 days recovering, but it takes me the full 5 days to recover from staying up 2 days, and I can't get him to. Sometimes he gets it, and sometimes he gets his feelings hurt. Where he's like, no, I don't get to see you. This is it. And you're going to bed? So you don't want to see me? And I'm like, no, babe, I get up at 5:45 every day. You sleep till 9:30 or 10.
Right.
And that's your schedule. But it's nobody's fault. But I can't, you're asking me to compromise my own health to watch a movie.
Right.
I don't want to do that. Love ya. Let's watch a movie at 1 p.m. when everybody's in school.
Right.
But we can't do that either. We're always working.
Yeah.
But I've talked to him about menopause because actually after I did the episode, this is one of the great things about this podcast for me is I sort of work things out in here, almost like therapy. Then I can go talk to him about it because I'm like, oh, I got this worked out. But sometimes I have a hard time working things out with Bert because he's very reactive and he's very emotional. So if I say, I'm worried that you're going to be my problem in menopause. I'm not going to be my problem. You are. What?
Right,
but for me to have a conversation with my girlfriends and then go, I kind of got it all figured out. So after that, I was like, women have like vaginal dryness and I apologize, but I would imagine that would hurt.
Yep. Yeah.
A lot. And so I can't imagine I'd be like, yeah, baby, let's do it anyway. Let's just rip it to shreds, you know?
Exactly.
And he's like, that would really hurt my feelings if we couldn't do that. I'd be really hurt. But what are you supposed to do?
Exactly. And I think it's, maybe like, one time it's like, okay, it's that. And then when it goes on for a period of time, it's like, well, that can't be it, what it is. You must not be attracted to me anymore.
That's what Bert said exactly.
Yeah.
He said it's got to be, I will believe, no matter what you tell me, I will believe and feel it's because you're not attracted to me. I'm like, can I control the night sweats?
Yeah.
No. I don't think I'd be able to control that either. It's
Right.
just part of what's going on in your body.
Yeah.
And lucky you, men don't have that kind of extreme thing like that, like menopause. In so many ways, mood swings for some women are extreme, the night sweating, the vaginal dryness, all of those things potentially could affect your partner. Men don't have anything like that
Right.
could affect us. And even if it did, women, I think by nature tend to be a lot less kind of or a lot more nurturing about stuff like that and coddling in a positive way, not in a enabling way, but in a way that makes them feel better. So that makes me nervous about my future. Now to hear that from you, I go, okay, so that's not an unrealistic fear.
Right.
It's a very realistic fear, right?
Right. And and it's hard too to not feel like guilty, or at the same time to, feel a little like resentful, because you're like, can't you understand that, I'm doing the best that I can,
Totally.
kind of thing. And, then you were joked earlier about having another kid to take care of. And yeah, sometimes it feels like that, you're just like, I have 4 kids instead of 3 kids because I have to make sure, that he's happy and taken care of also.
Right.
And then you're like, but what about me, kind
Yes.
of thing. So it's definitely a balance with all of that.
It is, especially with an artistic husband. They tend to be a bit more emotional and open and reactive by nature, because that makes them good at what they do.
Exactly.
But then it makes you a bit more, for me anyway, I'm not speaking for you, but for me, it makes me definitely more the caretaker. As Bert was, this past week, we were talking about that exact thing about having a caretaker, like I'm his caretaker. And then I went, but who takes care of me? And he goes, you do.
Right.
And I went, but I need someone to take care of me. He's like, no, you don't. You're good. But I'm not good. But I'm so good at it. You think I'm good. But I'm actually not good.
Right.
I actually would be nice if you would, take care of me. And he's like, I can't figure out how to do that. Like, I can't figure out what you need because you just do all of it.
Right.
So then I go, well, there's nothing that she needs.
Right.
And I'm like, well, that's not fair.
No, I know. I remember my mom telling me, like, through everything too, she's like, if you make people think that you can do everything, then you're not going to get the help that you need.
They'll let you.
She was kind of like, you have to take a step back, is what she was telling me, and let other people like help you and do things. Otherwise, they'll think, oh, she can do it all.
She's got it. Oh, that's a good thing. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
If you let people think you can do everything, they will let you do
Right.
everything.
Exactly.
Oh. Okay. Well, we have to get you to work.
Okay.
So thank you so much. And let's definitely come back and talk about adoption for sure.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.